Waste, we know, is a massive issue, and clinical waste only getting worse in the current environment. And we've been talking with a firm in Belgium who's got equipment that you can see there on the right, where the waste is cleaned. It goes through a steaming process and a microwave type process, and then ground down into energy pellets that you can then sell and burn. This is something we would like to look at as a region. Done some very early work on the business case, and it does seem it's stacking up as well financially, as well as taking waste out of the system and some other environmental benefits that we can bring from doing that as well. The other area we looked at is also print management. Still, although we keep hearing, obviously the NHS needs to go more online with digital, and obviously we have seen a massive increase over the last fortnight or so in the use of video conferencing. There is still a lot of paper, a lot of leaflets which are printed, and we have a regional project looking to standardise on those and put as many of those as we can online too. So what are our challenges ahead? Obviously COVID-19, very rightly, is what most people are thinking about and what their focus is on. And I think a lot of this will go on the back burner, I'm afraid, until we're out of this, which everyone knows that it's going to be a few months away. But I think then actually, with everything that's happened, these sorts of projects are going to be even more important than they ever were. When we have been looking at these, one of the issues we often face is resources. Whose job is it? If we're affecting budget in a number of places, who's going to pay for the resources? Do we need a business case? Where are the benefits? And I think until you've identified who is to lead on some of these and where it fits in the organisation, it will be quite difficult to move forward. I definitely need more sharing of ideas. Where is good practice? These sorts of events and sessions are very good at some of that. But I think we do need to share more as to what everyone's doing and where things are working. And also, I think we need to be honest on some of the things we've tried which just haven't worked. Other people falling in. We also need national lead on this as well. We know that the Green Energy campaign is just starting to make a bit of a difference, and out this asking for input and case studies. But I think it did feel still at a very early stage, basically just asking people for information, but not really giving us any strategy or any direction just yet. But hopefully that will come out of this work. I think the report and data on this is I think for us to really take this seriously as a trust or as a system, we need to get the likes to CQC and NHS improvement under use of resource inspections, able to actually record some of this in our SIP savings plans. I think we need to have all that in place as triggers and levers that we can pull so we can help us move this forward. Our suppliers as well, we need to work more with them. It's been quite interesting in the work that we've been doing when we've been talking with them anyway. We've had to raise that some are not, some are wrong with it, but haven't really told the NHS what, because we haven't ever asked them. But so I think need to do a lot more work to get our suppliers on the same page as us. We need that handling with them in a different way, to look at these specifications differently in the weightings, just to encourage them as well. I think it was fair to say there was a massive expectation around this sort of work building end of last year, earlier this year, and we managed those expectations. We were hearing that in Trust actually most of the push in doing some of these projects was actually coming from the from the staff themselves, and I think we've got to bear in mind how much change can we have to take as a system. We are working with different trusts on different projects, and I think we just need to get some projects done, some projects up and running, and take everybody with you on the journey. And I think, as it says there, I think we've talked about this for a long time, but I think actually I think now is the time to start actually trying to put some of these projects into action and make some real differences. And that's it. I hope you found that of use, and I'll hand back now onto the core team.
Thanks, Neil, for that, and sorry again to everybody for the technical difficulty we face there. Neil, I wanted a couple of questions to you. One of them being, you managed to kind of get this curriculum just quite quickly in the context of some other trusts in terms of how you with it. Do you feel that procurement as a central through supply chain or individually, which obviously we talked about was probably going to be happening more now because of the situation, is something that needs to be considered in terms of being more flexible in the tower categories and being able to procure from more sustainable organisations? And second question was, how do we make the categories, whether it's tower category or supply chain, how do we get some of these suppliers on there quicker?
Okay, so I think yes. So the towers, NHS supply chain have a major role in playing, especially on the side of things. We know that they too are starting to have a look at this and have got some strategies that were underway. The towers have to start to change the way they're going out and putting some of the frameworks in place. They need to start to take account of exactly where things are being sourced, the environmental impacts of what's being bought. Is it air freight? Is it coming from the Far East? And it's quite interesting. A lot of the issues we've had, which have been in the press at the moment, a lot around PPE, for example. Although there has been a massive increase in volumes, a lot of this is sourced out of China, and the fact they had to shut down for a number of weeks did have a massive impact on the supply chain across the world. So I think what is happening now is we're now seeing firms in the UK actually switching from other products into looking at products for the NHS, and you sort of hope that when we get to the other side of this, that we can actually keep that local supply chain as well, which will give us other advantages, around social value, for example. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think massive changes are coming. We just have to hope that we don't revert back to type, I think.
Yeah, good point. I mean, the emphasis now is on where we can support within the UK. because of the sheer depth and wealth of cases and numbers, and bringing and procuring internationally can have its barriers at these times. So I think you're right, and I think that lends a lot of hope to these organisations, many that we are worked with in the past, or members who are there, who can do that, and I think deserve a shot in some ways of being able to be utilised for procurement in the future. Certainly from waste perspective as well. Right, we're going to move on to our next presenter, which is Daniel O'Connor at Warpit, and Daniel's going to speak about some of the work he's doing around clinical procurement and the reuse system, and how that can operate as a procurement function within NHS Trust and with crisis observation. So over to you, Daniel.
Thanks, Scott. Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing all right under the current circumstances. Just trying to get my screen into there we go. Awesome. You can't see me, which is great. I get my webcam up, so it might be a bit more interesting. Excellent. There we are. So, sorry if you hear any kids in the background. I'm currently in the house, and the kids are both home. So, apologies if you hear any squawks or screams. Just going to quickly talk to you about some actions that the procurement function can take to increase reuse. Reuse of surplus items like equipment, furniture, stationery, supplies, PPE, things like that. And I'm going to dip in a little bit around business continuity and how reuse can help with that as well. So this presentation was written before the crisis started, but I'll dip in and out of how it can apply as well. So as a waste manager, I used to see this sort of thing every day. Most large estates have this issue where in corridors or in fire exits and all that sort of thing, but they often in the is on lots of items during building refurbs. And they're generally either skipped or sent to charity or whatever it might be. And then, the very next day, you might see a delivery of exactly the same sort of thing on the estate somewhere else. And that's because we all work and now live in silos, and communication across those silos is really limited. And that's why I kind of say things that ended up in the skip aren't really anybody's fault, because although there's lots of actors in the play, from procurement to facilities management to the buyer, because actually don't necessarily talk to each other, and so you often end up with people buying things, people are getting rid of things one day and exactly the same thing the next day. Okay, so I have kind of this is a symptom of a broken procurement system, really. If a procurement manager looked at themselves and said, honestly, would they like to facilitate, wouldn't we want to facilitate that? So because we're talking about the buyer's journey, a buyer comes onto your system, trying to buy, clothes or whatever it might be, or 10 operators' chairs. There should be a way to advertise the surplus that's already available on the estate. Okay, if there's not a reuse system for the buyers, then there's a few things, there's a few impacts in the procurement department that you'd probably look to reduce. The first one is, you're letting people buy items across the estate, because by there's a avoidance of because you let people buy items, there's paperwork being produced that it doesn't need to be produced, so there's an HR costs, okay, and that's going to carry on going up. And obviously, you know, we're here because of our concern about the way the economy is being run, you know, it's unsustainable. So there's obviously sustainability impacts. If you stop somebody buying something new, sorry, I got a funny little. Was that a question, Scott? Sorry. No. Okay. So yeah, sorry about that. I just got a little bit of a funny noise. If you stop people buying assets brand new, then you obviously take away all the environmental impact of those assets by extending the lifespan of previously invested in assets, okay? So there's a whole, what's called scope 3 carbon emissions are taken out of the equation. And another thing, you know, especially now, where you obviously, you know, there's a scarcity of certain items in certain categories, you know, and the purchasing department or the procurement department might look, there's an opportunity to on this issue within the procurement department. So what we're talking about here is improving collaboration internally, so that the people who have surplus assets can get them to the people who need them. Yeah, the buyers who are about to buy new. Okay, and especially with what's going on at the moment, you know, on our system, on the Warmit system, we set up internal networks so that internal staff can communicate with each other on what they have surplus requirements and what they don't. But it also works intersectorally as well. So, you know, you could have a case whereby, and this happens on the system all the time, whereby the NHS are actually claiming surplus assets, equipment, supplies from other organisations on the network. So there's a bit of work, a bit of emergency work going on at the minute, where the universities are kind of band together to make sure they can offer their PPE and their other supplies to the NHS. And so we're involved a little bit in the talks around that. But this is all about, you know, for future proofing. You know, this is all about making networks out across intersectorally, so you can see what everyone else has surplus requirements quickly and easily, and there's a system set up to be able to claim those assets. So obviously really top of the agenda at the moment. So just moving on to some questions which you can use to either, if you're not on the department and you need to kind of get them on board, or if you're on the procurement department, questions you can if you want to start to explore or encourage more reuse in your trust. And by the way, by the way, you know, the level of reuse is actually reported on in your ERIC returns, just in case you weren't aware. That's been going on for, well, a little while now, essentially last year, and it's going to be tightened up a little bit this year, apparently. So some questions you can actually ask your buyers. You know, do you actually have to buy the item in the first place? Could you just check our system and make sure it's not available elsewhere already? Or you can fill purchases either via the requisition system or by, you know, purchase orders, etc. And obviously, you know, you can make sure that you point your buyers that you have good contact with to the system, your reuse system, whichever reuse system you're using. You know, it might be that you've got a message board. It might be that you use like an email system of some sort. It might be a Warpit customer, or you might have built your own. So, you know, you've got to make sure that your staff, your buyers especially, know about your reuse system. Some advice you can give to buyers, you know, you can tell them, you know, what's actually good. If they're buying an item, what's actually going to be happening to their old items? Can you add them to the system? Yes, so that's the question you can ask your your buyers, and you can put that on your purchase requisition documentation. You know, what do you do with your old item? Because obviously you'll understand that there's a bit of a timing issue. You know, say if I ordered a replacement, I don't know, mass spectrometer or whatever it might be, the mass spectrometer gets delivered, and then the old one's in the corridor for, you know, between 3 days and 3 years. You know, so you can actually prompt the buyer to make sure they're going to make reuse available for the old one, for the old item. Hopefully that makes sense. Another thing, you know, as I said earlier, you know, this is a big opportunity for procurement to actually lead on reuse. And I always say this, but procurement actually hold the key or the keys to all the sustainable development goals. You know, all your sustainability impact is the biggest department who can influence that is procurement, and that goes for sustainability across the board, but also obviously circular procurement. Anything that you buy, and you should be looking to for it to be, you know, circular or low impact. And you know, you probably know this, but 60% of the NHS carbon emissions come from their procurement activities. So massive opportunity for the procurement manager to actually stick the flag in the ground and go, look, we're going to on this, we're going to get this sorted out, and then, you know, really raise up the profile procurement department, because I think you'll agree the procurement department has an image problem. Everyone really, the people out there in the estate, the procurement department is a bit of a blocker. You know, why can't I go off my able to check costs? I do tender and all that sort of thing. So this is an opportunity for the department to totally flip on its head and come on, you know, and procurement sexy, and that bring, you know, people through university and the millennials into the procurement sector, and give it a real boost in the arm. Another thing, the procurement department can demonstrate public support for reuse. You know, that's like making sure that you've got sustainability and reuse all over your procurement pages, making sure you're sending out sustainability messages to your buyers. You know, when your buyers see that the procurement department is behind sustainability and behind reuse, they, your buyers see it as normal. You influence your buyers' behaviour. So again, you know, this is another opportunity for the procurement department to really take the opportunity. And obviously, you can underpin that public display of support for sustainability and reuse with a policy, and that could be, you might have a sustainability policy already, a sustainable procurement policy already, but you can really drill down that, and you can actually do a reuse policy as well. So I'll put it in the comments when I jump out this, but I'll put a link to our template reuse policy that you can use. Backing up
Daniel,
that policy,
just
you know,
to jump in, we've had a question. We've had a question from one of our attendees who says, hospital, universities, etc., procurement is still very much a silo ordering. How does Daniel overcome this? Or how do you overcome this challenge of silo ordering and procurement?
Can I just, so sorry, I'm not a procurement pro, so I'm assuming silo ordering is the opposite to decentralization.
Silo ordering obviously is independent sections within the hospital. Procuring
so yes, decentralization
rather than collaborative.
Yeah, totally. So a lot of the universities actually do have silo ordering and trusts as well, and a lot. So you can influence those buyers through softer measures. You know, you can't just block purchasing cards and all that sort of thing, and maybe you don't have the same control on blocking purchasing requisitions and all that sort of stuff. but you can still do soft controls. I call them soft controls, and that is influence, that is culture change. So it's positive messages about the benefits of reuse, what's in it for the buyer, how does reuse solve the buyer's problem, yeah? And obviously, you know, you're only going to get 20% of buyers with that sort of approach, yeah? So if you're telling the buyers, you're going to, you know, look, we can get this 100 chairs for free from another NHS or from central government or whatever it might be. So you use these soft controls, these communications, to get on 20% of the buyers who are tuned into this. And then those 20% of the buyers, they then demonstrate to the other buyers that this is easy and everyone's doing it. Then you get another 20% of the buyers on. Once you get another 20% of the buyers on, it starts to become mainstream and normal. And then you start to get the rest coming on in drips and drabs, you know. So it's more of a, instead of those hard measures, it's more of a culture change. It's more of a culture change activity, and I know that's really hard to achieve, but by plenty of grassroots activity, plenty of senior management influence, and then plenty of sort of chipping away over time, you can change that culture. And you know, we've got customers on our system who've been on the system for 3, 4, 5 years, where it actually, you know, the staff, instead of the procurement department or the sustainability manager or whatever having to bang away about using the system, you've actually got people in these organisations who are actually, staff know that when they need to dispose of an asset, they put it on the system. Buying staff know that instead of buying you, they go to the system first, and then you get this real nice positive effect where it's the staff, the disposing staff and the buying staff who end up populating the system all the time. But that's a bit of a Shangri-La to get to, and that's a bit of a culture change program you've got to go through. To answer that question comprehensively, and I think I covered one of my slides as well, so we can skip forward. And so as part of the policy, you really need action. There's far too many policies that get written, to get everyone together, what word should we use? You know, or cross that out, we need to use this word, or we can't use that word. And you spend all this time writing the policy, then they go straight into someone's inbox. Somebody's drawing never gets read again. So you really need to make sure that your policies stand up and actually deliver action. So part of that is you've got to put goals on there where it's tied to a metric you can track, and that metric's reported at committee level, and it's got deadlines, yeah, and it's got people who are responsible for the metric as well. Okay. Obviously, procurement, as well as influencing the internal buyers, there's a massive, even bigger influence externally. You know, so start getting reuse, and well, I'm talking about reuse, so I want to say sustainability. So start to get reuse specifications in those tenders, right? So that might mean if you're clearing a building, you might put the onus on the contractor to get all those items reused, yeah? Or you might even say to the contractor, to maximize value, you must add all of our surplus assets to our Warbit system and then deliver them across the estate or to local charities, you know? So you can really use your purchasing might there. Again, you know, this is about supporting where reuse agendas, gender items, you know, so you've got like as a gender right throughout your estate, your buyers, you know, they have stuff every couple of months, whatever it might be. You can then as well news that you might send, you know, use your use system. And another one, this is my point. Yeah, it is. And another one is, you know, cast your eye forward. You know, actually buying stuff that you're then going to have to dispose of at a later date. That actually, you could see that as a liability. So this leads really nicely into the Vanguard presentation, where You know, from now and in the next 5 years, you know, everything's going to change. Everything has to change. You know, Nigel mentioned that, you know, insinuating that COVID is going to bring some changes. So this is a really good opportunity to change how you do things. You know, if you can bring in new procedures during this crisis, where everyone can say, why are we bringing this new procedure? Oh, it's because of COVID-19. You're going to get a much easier way of getting things in, okay? And I'm talking to everybody who's involved with policy here. But so what you need to be thinking about next is, you know, extending the lifespan of the existing assets. So that's by repair. You know, you might need to explore bringing in an in-house repair mechanism. You know, you can train someone up to do upholstery, so that you're not disposing of your £100 operators chairs. You know, you're actually spending 20, 30 quid just to get them repaired. You can look, and I'm sure you've all seen these examples, but you know, there's plenty of repair and reupholstery going on in the medical device arena. So why can't we extend that? You know, you should, as well as having an in-house medical device repair, why don't you have an in-house IT electrical equipment repair as well? You know, so they're all things you should really be exploring, because they're going to save you money, they're going to make you more resilient over time. Remanufacture, you know, you've probably seen this, but you can send your big 1800mm desks away, get them chopped up, bring them back in as 1 meter desks. You know, you're obviously going to have a lot of work from home policies coming in after this. Guess what? You've got loads of 1800mm desks spare. Why can't you chop them up and send them home so they have the desk at home? And finally, this is a big one. You know, you can start to specify assets as a service, so you never actually take ownership of those assets. So Canon photocopiers, you know, nothing new there. You've all leased Canon photocopiers before, so why doesn't that apply to any other class of category of assets? Because, you know, there's no real reason why it shouldn't. And in that one fell swoop, get rid of all this whole issue. You know, because the manufacturer then owns the asset, and it's in the manufacturer's best interest to keep that asset in your hands, to be charging you a monthly price for it. So they'll make sure that it lasts. They'll make sure that they'll upgrade it so it's always modern. You know, so it's a better economy for you, because you want to have that disposal liability at the end. And it's better manufacturers as well, because they've got more touch points with the customer, and they can solve your problems better if they've got more touch points.
Brilliant, brilliant. Cheers, that Neil. We're going to move on now. What we through very nicely, and we really is more crucial than anything applying demand and in this area. And he's going to talk about the remanufacturing of medical devices and how that can help.
Okay, I'm assuming everybody can hear me now. Okay, so yeah, thanks very much. Okay, thanks very much, Scott, for organising that. It's great to be able to connect with you all, whilst keeping a safe distance. And whilst obviously the current COVID situation is front and centre completely, one situation hopefully to move on in time. What I'll do today is to provide you opportunity. Move my slide. So something which you might I'm just there we go. Minutes. The insight what refactoring. But hopefully we'll take something else today. And if you're interested, for you to think about when introducing a program into your hospital, savings and sustainability work plan would be appropriate and would be suitable. And I would like to echo the points already made. Procurement is absolutely one of the vital key holders to the sustainability agenda within a hospital, and we fit firmly within the reuse sector in that regard. So the first point, to provide science what we manufacture is, well, in real layman's terms, what we do, we take some of a hospital's previously deemed single-use devices that are used in the cath labs and in theatres that you ordinarily use on a patient and then bin. We say, please don't do that. Give those devices to us, and we'll then ship them, send them to our plant, where we then clean them, check them, engineer them, we package them, and re-sterilize it, and then offer them back to you as a new product. So in real layman's terms, that's what remanufacturing is. Obviously, it's vitally important that those devices coming back into you are safe. So the quality is assured. We do not batch test. We test each and every single item. Well, our failure rates are anecdotally akin to that, or thereabouts, that of the original devices. We fully warranty and liability for all of our products as if we are a new manufacturer. So safety is a given. It's at the absolute forefront of everything that we do. Obviously, there are some inherent savings, and I'll talk a little bit about that further through the slide deck, which is obviously critically important from a procurement perspective. And also, the other benefit is that we will reduce your institution's environmental footprint by reducing the amount of waste that goes to landfill, but also, and again, this is touched already, reducing the demand for raw materials in terms of buying a new product when you don't need to. Remanufacturing is accepted in other parts of the world and is commonplace in other parts of the EU. US in particular, the vast majority of hospitals use a remanufacturing program. Canada, Israel, Japan, to name but other countries coming online all the time. Some of these countries, this system has been going for over 20 years of medical device remanufacturer. And has been fully regulated for the vast majority of those 20 years as well. Vanguard as a company is one of the leading EU providers. We have 800 customers in Germany, and of which 28 university hospitals, and all the main GPOs there purchase Vanguard devices, and then distribute those out through their member hospitals. In the UK, we're a little bit behind the rest of the world, but we're catching up. And one of the real aids to that expansion came from the MHRA, who issued guidelines in 2016, which essentially provided the green light to remanufacturing being a viable entity in the UK. And from that point on, we now have 25 UK hospitals on board, of which one, Neil mentioned the MRI is one. We have other trusts within his group looking at this as well. And vast majority of collection sites, but we also have sites that are reusing the devices as well. So it's rapidly expanding. We do have a trade association under the guise of the AMDR, or the Association of Medical Device Reprocessors. Just to point out here, in the context of this presentation, if you hear me referring to reprocessing, the correct nomenclature is remanufacturing, but in the guise of this presentation, if you hear reprocessing, it means the same thing. Outside of this presentation, reprocessing really refers to the own sterilization department within your hospitals. But the big number here from a procurement perspective is obviously the one on the right, where nearly $472 million were saved in 2018 by hospitals around the world using a remanufacturing program through Vanguard or other suppliers. And that's obviously not a big number. And I'll talk a bit further on what that actually means to the UK, and then perhaps what that means to your hospital as well. And that number comes from two things. One, it comes from obviously the reduced manufactured device over that of the original, but it also comes from some of the savings delivered via the reduction in waste, and also it comes from some of the original manufacturers reducing their prices in reflection of us being in the market. We are a positive disruptor in that regard. So the process really is very simple for setting up a collection or a manufacturing process in your hospital. It does take work in terms of getting all of the constituents together. But there are two very clear parts. One is the collection, and the part is the actual reuse of the devices. In the middle, you have the process that the devices go through. So I'm going to be very brave here, and I'm going to attempt a video. So hopefully this works and you can hear it okay. Basically what this does is it shows you a little bit of what the products go once they've come from your hospital and into our plant. Into a new product at the end. This video is a little bit dated, so please forgive that. I'm hoping for a new one very soon. But like I said, hopefully this gives you a little insight. It's just a few minutes long.
Instead of disposing of them.
Okay, so I hope that gave you a bit of an insight into the process that the collected devices go through. Apologies if you couldn't hear the sound fully on that. It's going to be a bit risky running the video through this link. But I hope that did give you a bit of a taster for the process and how in-depth and thorough it is. Again, feeding into the quality that's required for each one of the devices to come back to you as a viable product ready to reuse. So there's obviously, I've got a couple more bits here or slides on the actual process. I'm going to skip these in the interest of time, but if there is anybody there who would like to know a lot more about what we actually do, then obviously in terms of the actual cleaning and re-sterilizing processes and mechanical and electrical integrity testing that we do, and traceability elements as well, and we can obviously feed in a whole lot more information around that too if you're interested. From a regulatory perspective, I mentioned the MHRA. Obviously all of our products have to be CE marked. We use BSI as our notified body. We're ISO 13485 and EU MDD and soon to be MDR fully compliant. One point from a regulatory perspective, just to point out as a top point there, perhaps, that the term single use is actually not applied by any regulatory body. It's applied by the original manufacturers. And what we do is we collect the single-use device and turn it back into another single-use device. Some of the products can be used or remanufactured up to maybe 6 times. It does depend on each individual SKU or line item. Some are less than that, but it shows you how robust some of these products actually are, and how few you actually have to buy. Yeah, again, got more information by line item another time if you'd like it. The clinical advocacy for using remanufactured devices is growing, as is the literature that's being citing its effective use. We've got a number of papers from around the world. Perhaps one that's particularly interesting that came at the end of 2018 from St George's Hospital in London, who followed up their first 100 patients using remanufactured EP catheters, which is highlighted there, where they cite that the safe remanufactured circular mapping catheters was there, and that the widespread use of remanufactured single-use devices offers the possibility of significant economic benefits. So this will really help when we get to the point of talking to your clinical teams in the implementation of your remanufacturing program. So the portfolio, the historical world experience tends to steer towards the electrophysiology speciality within cardiology. So diagnostic, ablation, 3D mapping catheters are the mainstay of the portfolio, but there's also a new remit going into surgical, some orthopedic instruments. We have some endoscopy lines as well. And I think beyond this list, there's a whole realm of products that we don't yet remanufacture, but in the future hope to. So we really see that this is an opportunity for expansion of your sustainability and savings plans. But that's where the portfolio sits in its main state at the moment. 171 products are on our current portfolio. Obviously, the current situation pending, but we have another or almost double that, getting us up to 324 lines by mid this year. So the amount of savings that you as a hospital can generate via a remanufacturing program obviously depends on the overlap of products that you use that we can actually remanufacture. So our intent is to keep investing in new lines so that there's ongoing savings feeding into your SIPS plans can obviously expand out as our portfolio grows. In terms of the savings in the UK, well, a lot of work has been done on the assessment, particularly from the Department of Health and the Lord Carter team. Their work cited 30 million initial savings via a remanufacturing program across the NHS. We think that's conservative, but the mapping of that process was pretty thorough, so it's good. But again, as our portfolio grows, that so does that number. What does that mean to you as a hospital? Well, well, we offer up to 50% savings per line item. Plus, as we mentioned, the OEM price reduction, which will take a little bit of time to come into play, but is also an avenue of pursuit. Plus, you have the waste reduction savings to feed into this as well. And there's just a snapshot below that of one opportunity analysis we did at a hospital in London. This shows that at the bottom right, that from 13 odd lines, you can save up to £274,000 worth of savings per annum, of expenditure per annum. And this is just a snapshot of a much bigger list. Obviously, one of the things we would do if you're interested would be to perform an opportunity assessment at your hospital. Is a great place to start, and is a good way to introduce the program into your hospital. Steps to do that, just to establish paperwork to deal with care with these devices. We provide collection materials. But there's benefits remanufacturing that it's safe, delivers savings.
If somebody looking to ask questions, Paul.
Okay.
I think it is. Some question to Paul. Well, we have had one, Paul.
Yep.
So we might as well go take just in what potential restriction could we look for in ambulance services? Does this apply in terms of ambulances with medical equipment?
So if I go back to the portfolio, so at this stage, no. The answer, unfortunately, is that there isn't any opportunities right now within the ambulance service because our portfolio is orientated towards theatre and cath lab use. But as mentioned, there may be other lines in the future that we could look to incorporate. We're always open to ideas that we can feed into our R&D department.
Cheers, Paul.
Okay, so just going back the wrong way. So just to finish up then, my objective at the beginning was to provide you with insight into what is. I hope that these slides have done that. To offer you some food for thought, and I hope that if you are interested, that the next thinking is, well, when should we introduce a remanufacturing program into our hospitals' savings and sustainability work plans? If that is something that you're keen to do, first step would be simply to contact me for some more details. Obviously, we're remote working at the moment, but we can go through an opportunity assessment remotely, and we can start to drop numbers about what that looks like, both in terms of savings opportunity, but also in terms of the kilos of waste that we could divert. And then when the time is right, and obviously the current COVID situation is lifted a bit, and we could then look at a program implementation, and we can talk through that, and obviously we support you every step of the way. So it's a relatively does need people to come together in the hospital, and again we can help be that glue to make that happen. So yeah, apologies for that's useful. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Paul. What I've done is I've sessions, and the whole muting and unmuting thing is often a problem. Anyone have questions to any of our panelists? Please put your hand up, or possibly unmute yourself. Ask a question. The floor is open, as they say. Don't be shy. And you can ask. Do you want? I want to ask a question just quickly to Paul in terms of, you mentioned the equipment that you've got that can be remanufactured. How long, it's something I just picked up in the video, how long between leaving remanufacturing and coming back to the, just what is the time?
There's two ways that we can do the or implement the program, and once we get back to 2 weeks, or we have already they can be ordered on a basis with you either the next day or within 4 hours.
Okay. What's the for other instance advice that you can manufacture there? Continue with, how do you make that decision?
Two elements. Obviously, we look at products, realms of that product, or the same sphere of speciality that that product sits in. So the expertise that goes into the line. So that's one. And look at completely new devices as well. And from a future perspective as well. What's involved there is we take much information from clinicians and from the field, and then marry that with our scientific expertise in our production, and then walk on that the next sort of work streams that we apply. As savings from that, it's a big part of what we do.
Stenton from Liverpool, he's asked, who are the staff to speak to for the manufacture of items? Is it best through procurement or straight to clinic staff? What works best and where would we start? It's a good point, really, isn't it? If you've got the likes of Ian and others, they up and lead on this. Are they being clinical to start with? Where did they go and who did they start these conversations for?
Yeah, so typically, if I was approaching the hospital, my first plug is say that this is a really viable project that needs to go on stream. And just say, look, you know, we love thoughts, and with your permission, can we go do that? So I working on this the key program. And I think them on board, we would get the clinical teams and talk with, you know, with this is what we do. Then we would then go to the states guys and just make sure they're happy from a and anybody else control you talk to them as well. And then and the cath labs, you know, making sure the products are reordered and everything's in terms of use. So I'd say the relevant clinical teams and this waste management from waste perspective are probably the key people that would usually engage.
The literature you just shared on your slide, obviously we'll be sharing with everybody, including the recording of this of that. In that information you just shared there, Paul, was there a kind of, I don't know, a template or a document which Ian and others could just kind of go forward to procurement with, you know, to make that initial conversation easier? Look at this, look at the savings, look how this is done. I mean, you mentioned some of the hospitals that you with. Have we got a breakdown of that data to share on them?
Yeah, so obviously we're collecting devices all the time from the 25 hospitals that we already have up and running. So the case study from each one of those, which will tell you how many kilos of waste we're diverting, how many devices they're using, and the opportunity of devices that they're not yet using in terms of using remanufactured versus new. So there is a savings analysis document that you can take forwards, and you know, there's an overview document that we can provide that will help with those conversations. Absolutely. So I think probably the best thing that we've found so far is to tailor that to each individual hospital, so it's, you know, you're hitting the right notes with the right people. So yeah. So perhaps a chat with it. I can have a chat with him offline, and we can gladly talk to him about Liverpool. And you know, perhaps coming to me is the first best place, and then we can then talk through your individual hospital needs and go.
It's a bit of a project plan, isn't it, Paul, for each individual trust and how they are, the bigger, the small size, and obviously that means you touched on the point there. You said obviously this is a tough time, and you know, in some senses we've had a few people contact us last week saying the time to do a clinical procurement webinar is now, given what's happening, and that kind of statement could be applied to lots of things going on at the moment, and it is a sensitive time. But I think addressing procurement and sustainability in terms of medical devices, medical equipment, and general equipment is key now, because Neil touched on it earlier. We will have a change and possibly a revolution in the way that procurement is conducted going forward after this. I'm sure things may see a slight change. I've got a quick question I wanted to ask to Daniel, which is, you currently on your platform don't have the capacity, or sorry, not the capacity, you don't have the demand to use different elements of clinical equipment as a system. How much does infection control play a part in decision making on procurement, in the sense that reuse and remanufacturing of crutches, wheelchairs, etc., are often put to one side for the procurement of new, mainly to do with infection hygiene? How big a challenge is that, Daniel, to face from you as a supplier, as an organisation, and from any of your clients when it comes to things like that? And do you often get met with this infection control sort of argument?
Yeah, so it is an issue. It's a barrier, and I don't usually get I don't usually get involved really. It's more on a customer level. So whoever's putting in our program will usually involve infection control in their stakeholder consultations and ongoing management. Categories that pop up, certain items that pop up around this, like, as you'll know, that might have gone a bit rusty, or furniture which has textile rather than vinyl wiped down and all that sort of thing. And actually, what is that, and it's comes down to personality and how pragmatic the infection control manager is around whether those risks can be managed properly. For example, we have customers in Scotland where they are taking out the metal corroded clinical bins where they've got a bit of rust on, and they're being shot blasted, repainted, and put back into use. So that's actually happening. But in other areas, they're being condemned. So there's not a universal playing field for this, and I think it comes down to personalities. But I know the people who I'm looking at the attendee list, I think there'll be a lot more relevant comments from the attendees around this, because I'm not completely. I'm like one person removed from the issue, if you like.
Yeah, what would you say to that, Neil? You there at the forefront of it. What's the conversations you've had when it comes to infection control around the
It's got a lot easier recently. Yeah, I mean, we always have to make sure we buy the right products there. In fashion, but I think we got really good links with those teams and directors and all. I think it's just about engaging, talking to them. I know it's a cliche, but actually taking them with you on the journey. I think as long as you engage and explain, you understand their concerns, then they're off.
I'm thinking from like what you thinking of your the sort of barrier you face. You're outside of trust and so what have you when it comes to procurement? You can do My question was, we've talked about whether what's the perspective from the ambulance service? How they
but I have to say probably sitting we have a responsibility of about £80 million, mostly invested in the Yorkshire region, but a major contributing factor on reuse, and if we get it right, it's thrown away. So we have a real challenge on what we do. Impacted by the Chinese issues, but we have the additional aspect of fleet, manufacturing around the world at the moment. So COVID has had a large impact on our supply chain. In comparison, but I say footprint wise, our procurement is probably about 6%.
Yeah. David, I think maybe give us a perspective of what you face possibly in Wales and how you're approaching procurement, if you can hear me.
Yeah.
Hi, David.
Hello. Collisions, but I'm realising it's should be listening to the
The barrier, though, isn't it? Certainly in this period, this is unprecedented, as we've said, and it's not faced before, or maybe never faced again. So the clinical engagement at this point is very difficult and very understandable. But we have seen more and more clinical engagement over the last few years, certainly when it comes to anaesthetists. Look at the doing PVC masks, for instance, and other parts of that. But I think the challenge is how, and a lot of people have spoken about this already, is how do we get them together, work collectively outside of the silos? Siloed, but I don't know where that comes from in terms of who talks to procurement to make that happen.
I have to lead on this and say you need to look at use remanufacture first before buying. So that's trying or breaking new.
that's completely right. Just quickly, let me just put this up now, and just put this up on your screen. If you just click which one there is, that would be really good for us to get an idea. Give it and we will close it. So, 67% said yes, 3% no. There's no surprise we've done this poll many times over the last couple of years as part of the campaign, and the actual no, 33% is an increase from 24%. So there is a slight improvement, and obviously we're only doing a snapshot of the people that are on this and not the masses who can take it into too much of a context. But that relationship is the essence of this whole feel, and I feel that is where the future lies. Is that relationship from procurement. It's not a surprise to tell you that since we've been running the campaign for over 10 years, with Chartered Institute for Procurement, for instance, and others have not strong, and we have not seen that enthusiasm. We are recently a and take away from Martin was very basic in what they're trying to do. So I do think there's a need for us to gear up towards engaging with procurement more, and we may need to work collaboratively to look at how we do that effectively. We're willing to work with others to try and do that, and the softly approach is probably the way forward. Do we need to look at how we can do this to get sustainability embedded quicker and further. I'm going to wrap it up. We are obviously overrunning because of a few issues, but I just wanted to thank our panelists today. A massive thank you to Vanguard and to Paul for their support and sponsoring of this to help us with these. Paul will also be joining us in our webinar on plastic reduction, which has got nearly 50 attendees registered. So the next one will be on plastic reduction, I think around April the 22nd, and then we will be having another one at the end of the month, which will look at staff engagement. And we wanted to thank our other panelist, Neil. He's jumped off. He's currently obviously getting PPE procured, sorting everything out with there, which is very busy across Manchester. Thank you to Daniel, one of our members and supporters, for joining us and talking about the reuse aspect of it. And thank you to all of you for joining us today and putting your questions across. We will have a full recording available to download and send out to you. We can also provide you with an attendee list. The main aim of all this is to collaborate, is to speak with each other, break down these silos, share ideas, share information, work with the members, including Vanguard and others, and try and support you moving forward. Another side note is you will have seen that our day to sustainability, we are doing another one in September. We took the decision because of COVID-19 that a lot of trusts could not find the resources in time to do so for it, which just took down the big account the 17th. Fingers crossed we're in a position to do and celebrate that again. Anyone who needs badges or anything, we've got lots of them in our headquarters to send out. And take a look on the website, take a look at the upcoming webinars, and hopefully we'll speak to you and see you again. All for your time, and stay safe and stay healthy.